Hi everyone, my name is Fanny. I'm a customer success manager at Unito, and today we'll look into why your cards might be archiving unexpectedly. And here I say cards because I'm going to use a Trello example, but it could also be your Asana tasks completing or your Jira issues closing unexpectedly. So there are three reasons why Unito would archive your cards. First, it can be due to your status mapping. When creating a flow from your personal board to a master board, let's say, under the section called Field Mapping, the status mapping would have been added automatically. What it means is that by default, if you archive a card in your personal board, the copy would archive on the master board and vice versa. In other words, the status of a card, either open or archived, is reflected. You can change this so that the status doesn't reflect at all, in which case you would simply delete the status mapping by clicking on this bin icon here. Or you can make it one way so that when you archive a card in your personal board, it impacts the master board, but not the reverse. Now, the second reason for cards to archive has to do with your rules, but it's a little bit more complex to explain. So let's take an example. Let's say I have synced a card from my personal board to my master board using the label called master board. This label is the rule or the trigger for my flow. If the next day I choose to remove this master board label from the original card, the copy that Unito has already created on the master board will be archived. And that's because the original card doesn't have the master board label anymore. Therefore, it does not meet the criteria of the flow anymore. So Unito would archive the copy that's already been created, thinking it should not be on the master board. Similarly, if I use a list filter, I want to make sure not to move my original cards out of the list I have selected. Otherwise, the copies on the other board would archive. This is a very important concept to understand, so let's illustrate it. On my personal board, I have a card labeled master board, and this card has already synced to my master board, as you can see here. Now, if I remove the label on the original card, you'll see that in a few seconds, the copy on the master board is going to archive. See, it is now here in my archived section. The third and last reason why your cards would be archiving unexpectedly is if you move your original cards out of their original board. So if I go back to my personal board and I move this original card I created here to another board, let's say to a board called Demo, the copy on the master board is going to archive. In this case, it's only when the original card is moved out of its original board that the copy would archive. The reverse wouldn't be true. If you move the copy out of the master board, the original card, this one, wouldn't archive, but the link between the two cards would still be broken, which isn't what we want either. So to sum it up, I've got a few pieces of advice to avoid any bad surprises. First, if your team is new to Trello and you haven't defined any clear processes around archiving cards, maybe remove the status mapping so everyone can archive cards independently without impacting anyone else's work. Second, make sure when setting up your rules that your cards won't fall out of sync. To be kept in sync, your cards should always meet the rules or the criteria that you have set up for your flow. Third, avoid moving cards to other boards. If you really need to do so, please get in touch with us so we can provide some guidance. Rest assured though, Unito would never delete cards. Unito can archive cards, but these could always be retrieved. In Trello, for instance, you'll find your archive cards under Menu, and then More, and finally, Archived Items. So during this video, I focused on a Trello example, but the same concepts would apply to any other tools that you're connecting. Everything I mentioned earlier could be why your Asana tasks are being marked as completed or why your Jira issues are being marked as closed for no apparent reason. If you're still unsure why your cards are archiving unexpectedly though, you can always reach out to our support team by emailing support@unito.io or by using the chat bubble in the bottom right corner of the Unito app. Have a good day, everyone.